Hey, it's Keiki in Cowtown, and today I'm going to be doing my January reading wrap up. I just wanted to talk about the 6 books that I read this month, which kind of surprised me. I'm like 2 books ahead of my goal this year, which is like a great way to start 2021, and I'm pretty proud of myself for that. But wanted to talk about the books I read because I did read 5 5-star books. I read 6 books and I gave 5 of them 5 stars. I really need to fix my rating system because at this rate I'm like, you know, but that's not a problem for right now. I'm gonna tell you everything that I liked and didn't like about the books that I did read in January. I finally have my notes in my little reading journal here so I can actually kind of make sense when I am talking about the books that I read. The first book that I read in 2021 was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, and I gave this one 3 stars. So You Should See Me in a Crown is about this girl, Liz, who is a black girl running for like prom queen at her school so that she can win like scholarship money to go to her dream college. I enjoyed this book, but I will explain why I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I had alright expectations because it is a sapphic story, so Liz starts crushing on one of the girls that she is like competing against for prom queen, and that's a really fun time. I really enjoyed that part of the story. Let's get down into it. This is a YA novel, so I'm alright with YA. You'll see, because majority of the books that I read this month were YA, but like this one in particular felt very juvenile, just because I think Liz as the main character's like inner voice, the way she approached problems felt very childish, and that really got on my nerves. And there's this consistent thing throughout the book that's so cliche. It's just the whole, oh, there's the popular girls and then there's the not so popular girls, and it's like the popular girls bully them, and only the most popular girl in school can win prom queen because she's pretty and mean. And it's like that dynamic just doesn't exist in real life. Sure, there are like more popular kids and like outcasts at school who do get bullied, but that whole like predictable 90s movie like hierarchy doesn't exist, and it really bothers me when books like pretend like it's the most important thing in the world, you know? One thing that's really prevalent in the story is the gossip page. So they have a school gossip page, and I guess I can get behind that. I did in Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. Like they had like a school Tumblr page where they would post like gossip, or like people would share like fun things or whatever. And while my school has tried to do things like that before, it never dominated like high school life the way that these books and these movies like to pretend that they do. Exposing someone's drama on the school gossip page is giving me the same vibes that texting the entire school like in early 2000 movies did. Like, that's just not possible. It is not possible to send a message to every single student in the school and for everyone at school to be laughing at you and making fun of you for this one thing. Like, yes, high school sucks and terrible things do happen, but not like that. And I need adults to stop pretending like that's a thing that happens in high school, especially in today's like technology age. That's not what it's like. It's just not. Everyone cared so much about the school's drama page. Like, come on, we're in high school. Like, we have to worry about our grades. Like, we don't care what Jesse did at a party on Friday night. Sure, we'll talk about it and laugh about it for a couple seconds, but then we'll go back to studying for the chem test. Like, when I'm not enjoying a book, I start to nitpick at like little things. And one of my least favorite things about YA novels is the commonality of first person present tense. It's so nitpicky, but I dislike it strongly. Like, a book is just significantly better if it is in third person or if it is in first person past tense. It just feels so much better. First person present tense gives me like Wattpad vibes. I enjoy character studies, and when a character tells their story like in third person past tense, it feels more like they're writing a diary entry and they're really engaging with what they felt at the moment. But with present tense, it feels like they're kind of forcing me to relate to them. And especially in this situation, me and Liz are just very different personalities. So I think that really didn't work out. I had problems with a lot of the characters, and just the way the story played out around those characters really just stuck a pin in my experience with this novel. So the first character I want to talk about is Amanda, or Mac, which is the girl that Liz starts to take interest in. And I really liked her from the beginning. She was fun and quirky, and she talked too much. And in any other teen rom-com, she would be the annoying side character. So I enjoyed it so much that Leah Johnson created this character who in other YA stories no one would pay attention to, but she's the love interest in this one, and it made me so happy because I was like, oh my god, she's so cute and weird, like a real teenage girl would be. But then, like, halfway through the story, she lost all personality. Like, in the beginning, I was really starting to fall for her as Liz was falling for her, and I was really rooting for their relationship. But then we got, like, halfway through the story, and she had no personality whatsoever. She was just doing things and saying things that didn't really make sense for her character, and that really bothered me. I was like, I miss her. Like, what happened to Mac? Where did she go? The next character is Jordan, which is Liz's ex-best friend. They used to be really close, but then he became like super popular and one of like the football guys or whatever. He was a really strong character in theory, and I really liked the kind of male and female like friendship that you don't see in a lot of YAs. It's nice that, you know, they can be just friends, and they were really cute friends. They had a good bond. Jordan really cared about Liz and went out of his way to check if she was okay and certain things even after everything that happened. The biggest issue I see with him is due to this book's weird handlement of racism. That is one of the major problems I have with this book, is it is a book about a black girl at a predominantly white school trying to fit in. And like the synopsis for the story really hones in on that. Liz Lightly has always believed she's too black, too poor, too awkward to shine in her small, rich, prom-obsessed Midwestern town. So yeah, it really emphasizes on the fact that she's black, and this book is somewhat about racism, but I don't like the way it was done. Like, it gave me very weird vibes. Because Jordan is black too. He has a white mother, but he's still black. And I can believe that he's Mr. Popular. And I can believe he experiences less racist comments and isolation than Liz does as a dark-skinned black woman. But this book is trying to tell me he experiences no hardships at all. Liz, the way she talks about Jordan, especially in the beginning of the story, like he is Mr. Popular, there's just one specific moment that really highlights this. Rachel is the most popular girl in school, and there's this one scene where she walks past Liz and Jordan talking, and she says something extremely racist. She says, like, "Oh, Jordan, why are you hanging out with the help?" And I had so many issues with that. One, it was extremely racist, but as this was a book about race, that kind of made sense. But two, Jordan is black too. Like, does the school realize that? Like, they're insanely racist to Liz, but not to Jordan? Like, I find that really hard to believe that all his white teammates wouldn't be making racist comments to him all the time. Like, I find that hard to believe, just because I am also a person who goes to a suburban high school where the few black kids that we do have at school, like, they could be popular, but they're still regularly face like microaggressions and stuff. And it really was confusing the way Jordan seemed to have this perfect life while Liz was literally being like almost hate crimed every day. It's like, huh? This doesn't add up. The next character that I hated her. There were no good qualities about her, and she is another one of Liz's friends. Gabby is possessive and manipulative in true white girl fashion, but this book never quite addresses that. To kind of summarize what I was trying to say there, once Liz tells her that she's running for prom queen, Gabby takes over. She's like, okay, I'll be your publicist, I'll help you. But she does it in such a gross way. And it's unclear whether Gabby is white or not. In the book, I have no idea whether she is or not, but regardless, she is so annoying. Why did she suddenly think she had control over Liz? And she's very critical of Liz's relationship with Mac. And it's like, girl, like, mind your business. Like, you're not her mother. It really, really bothered me, and she's never held accountable for that. Like, at the end of the story, she apologizes for something she did that was super toxic, and put Liz in a very bad position for majority of her high school. And they just kind of brush it off because she's like, I was going through a hard time. Like, are you kidding me? Like, she kind of ruined Liz's high school experience up until, like, this is her senior year. She ruined 3 years of her high school experience. You're problematic. You're toxic. Please stop. And on to the mean girl character, or should I say caricature, Rachel. Oh god, what a cliche gone wrong. How is she the most popular girl in school when clearly everybody hates her because she's a biatch? She is so mean, but my problem with her is how she's racist. She says so many blatantly racist comments that just get brushed off as jealous mean girl activity. This leads me to one of my biggest flaws in the book. Rachel is racist because she's mean instead of being mean because she's racist. I explain this on the next page. This book pushes a very untrue and harmful idea that bad people are racist and good people are not. It fails to recognize that racism is a system of oppression, not a personality trait. Everyone is capable of doing racist things, whether they are nice, good people or not. I guarantee Rachel would not be the only racist one in that school, but when the school stands up to Rachel, they act like she's the one and only villain, when that entire school very well made it an uncomfortable space for Liz to live in. And speaking of that, this book has a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality that totally infuriates me. It makes it seem like Liz made up all of her isolation in her head, like she was her own worst enemy. That's gross and I hate it. She is supposed to persevere through racism and homophobia. What kind of message is that? And you know I came with receipts. So I have a specific scene in this book that happens towards the end. It's low-key spoiler. So this is during the scene when Liz is putting on makeup and getting ready for some like presentation that the prom court is doing. So she's hanging out with the other girls that are running for prom queen. And there's these two girls in particular who are known for being Rachel's best friend. Rachel, the mean girl's like best friends, and they always, you know, it's like the mean girl trio, you know. In this scene, they start helping out Liz. They're like, oh, we want to help you do your makeup. Like, we think it's really cool that you're running for prom queen. Like, you seem like a really cool person and stuff like that. I try not to twitch away as Quinn curls my eyelashes. Anyways, if you guys like me, why haven't you ever spoken to me outside of prom stuff? Lucy pops her gum loudly. Duh, because you never talk to us. We thought you hated us by association or something, because Rachel is so mean. I must look shocked because she continues. Look, I think we can all admit that Rachel has some major rage issues that could be worked out in therapy. Very major, Quinn giggles, but she's our friend. So yeah, my problem with that scene is that Quinn and Lucy, the two popular girls, make it Liz's fault that she didn't talk to them. It shifts the blame onto Liz when really that's Lucy and Quinn's fault. They're over here saying, oh, Rachel is so mean, but she's our friend. It was definitely their job to tell Rachel to stop being mean. And by the way, her being mean is being racist. Major issues that she has to work out in therapy, being racist. But like, Quinn and Lucy were bystanders the entire book. They were bystanders the entire time that Rachel was bullying Liz. And then all of a sudden they're gonna come out and say, oh, but you didn't talk to us. Like, that was your fault. That was your fault for not going out of your way to help Liz, or maybe coming out and talking to Rachel, who is supposedly your friend. You should be able to talk to her and tell her, hey, maybe you shouldn't be so mean to her. But they didn't, and they were never held accountable for that. And that exposes the whole, at the end of the book, everything is Liz's fault. The entire time, the reason why she was so miserable was because she thought she was too black and too poor and too awkward, but really she was just making that all up in her head. And I hate that. I hate that, especially as someone who goes to school, and I do feel very outcasted at my school for various reasons. For Leah Johnston just to tell me, oh, the solution is to run for prom queen and befriend the people who have bad talked to you your entire life. Like, wow, what a great message, thank you. This one specific review kind of worries me because it really exposes that pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality that I'm scared that this book is pushing. Like, this is one review that I saw on the Storygraph. At the end says, overall, this book tells a story I always want to hear, with struggles and heartbreak, but also perseverance and hard working leading to victory and love. That's weird. That's weird, right? That's weird. She's supposed to persevere and hard work her way out of racism and homophobia at her school? I don't like that. I don't like that at all, and it makes me feel very icky. Please don't believe that you can persevere and hard work your way out of racism and homophobia, because discrimination is not your fault. If you're being discriminated against, it is not your fault. I just need I need other Black girls and other people to know that. I know I made this book seem terrible, but you can tell from the amount of hype that this book has gotten in 2020, a lot of people talking about it, and I read several reviews of people giving it 5 out of 5 stars, and it's like, I didn't see it. I didn't see what everyone thought was so amazing about this book. I did think it was cute, and I had a nice time with it. I read it very quickly, but those problems really stood out to me and made this book not a good time. I still kind of would recommend reading the book just because we have so little sapphic YA books. There's so little representation, so I can understand people who will take what they get. So I still might recommend this book to people who want to read sapphic romance YAs, but like, I did not thoroughly enjoy every part of that experience. The next book I read was The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This book is written in verse, and I gave it 5 stars. It's so powerful, just an absolutely beautiful queer story that captures the magic of Black queer people amidst all the white homophobic BS. This makes me want to write poetry. I just want to be as beautiful as Michael. He is such a stunning beauty, and I know the author must be beautiful as well. So it's these poems of this boy, Michael, who it's set in the UK, and he is Black and he's queer, and it kind of documents his experiences from being born to in college, to his college experience. It's just the way it pulls you in is so beautiful, and I definitely want to revisit this book sometime in the future. It tells a story so real. It feels so real, especially moments where he references the movie Moonlight, or he references the movie Beautiful Thing, and talks about how much those movies meant to him, seeing them. And that hit so close to home. I love Beautiful Thing. That movie literally, I feel changed my life. It was so nice to see this character sharing their experiences that are so similar to mine. Aww. I screenshotted the last poem in the book just because it's so comforting. It's comforting, you know. It's not too sad because Michael is such a charming character. He's such a ray of sunshine that even when really bad things are happening to him, he finds such a beautiful way to describe it. And that's what makes it so comforting. So I definitely recommend this book. Please, please. The next book is The Henna Wars by Adiba Jaigirdar. Adiba Jaigirdar. Is she coming out with a new book? Is she coming out with a new book this year? But The Henna Wars. 5 stars. Amazing. So cute. Everything I wanted. I will be purchasing this book because I checked it out. I checked it out on Libby, and you can bet that I will purchase it because there's already a specific scene that I've been wanting to reread the past few weeks. That scene has been on my mind, and I just need to reread it. So I need to buy this book so I can hold it in my hands and love it in person, okay? When Nishat comes out to her parents, they say she can be anyone she wants, as long as she isn't herself. Because Muslim girls aren't lesbians. Nishat doesn't want to hide who she is, but she also doesn't want to lose her relationship with her family, and her life only gets harder once a childhood friend walks back into her life. Flavia is beautiful and charismatic, and Nishat falls for her instantly. But when a school competition invites students to create their own businesses, both Flavia and Nishat choose to do henna, even though Flavia is appropriating Nishat's culture. Amidst sabotage and school distress, their lives get more tangled, but Nishat can't quite get rid of her crush on Flavia and realizes there might be more to her than she realized. Nishat is such a wonderful character. She is dignified and self-aware in a way that's rare for YA protagonists who are often selfish and immature. And in that, I can really relate to her. Her relationship with her younger sister, Pretty, is so real and almost identical to me and my sister. Flavia is so flawed in the most realistic way, and you can't help but fall in love with her. I'm so happy the author took this story in the direction that she did. The message it tells about cultural appropriation is impeccable, so aligned with reality and uncensored. It's a beautiful YA book that doesn't shove a message down your throat, but calls out privileged readers and consoles minority readers. I feel like this book was written for me, for the first time in my life. A new favorite for sure. It took me almost a week to read it because I didn't want it to be over. The Henna Wars is set in Ireland, which is very different from I don't think I've ever read a book that was set in Ireland. So it's really nice that this Desi Irish author is like getting herself out there, which is so cool. So cool. It really brings different experiences to the table because you're so used to American stories, and American racism is a bit different in Ireland and like in Europe and stuff. So I think it's really important that we also get these stories out there to show that homophobia and racism isn't just an American thing. It happens in Europe, it happens in Asia, it happens in Africa, it happens in Antarctica, and we need to call these things to light so that we can properly address them worldwide. This book talks a lot about cultural appropriation, and that's a very touchy subject and a very confusing subject for a lot of people because like some people call it like gatekeeping, like you can't gatekeep culture, like it needs to be shared, and like, oh, it's not appropriating, it's appreciating. And I think this book tackles that in a really authentic way. It has the best message about it. And the character Flavia, like, the love-hate relationship that the reader has with her reading this freaking book, and the love-hate relationship that Nishat has with her, because the whole time she's like, okay, like, she's really cute and really nice, but like, why is she doing this to me, you know? They're like in a really awkward position, and I think that's so realistic, because it's like, that's what real relationships are like. Pretty, her sister, is such a sweet character, and I'm so glad she's in there. And her parents her parents are her parents, you know. They're annoying at the beginning, but you kind of get to know them throughout the story, and I appreciate that. At the beginning of the story, Nishat comes out because she feels like she's lying to her parents and she doesn't want them to have unrealistic expectations about her future. But then it kind of backfires on her because her parents try to ignore it and try to pretend like it's not a problem, but also very obviously have an issue with it. And I find that so realistic and really important. And it's so important to tell different coming out stories because everybody's coming out story is going to be different. The next book is not YA, it is Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. A little random, but you know. An embracing story about grief and life and love. I will surely revisit the story again and again. Yoshimoto has such an amazingly beautiful perspective on life, and it's encouraging and comforting as hell. A book about death that somehow inspires me to live. It's about this woman whose parents died when she was younger, and now her grandmother, who she's lived with since she was a teenager, dies, and she's left by herself. And the entire book kind of just follows her grief, and as she meets these new people, finds a new family, and how the grief follows her, and how it grows, and how it shrinks, and how it changes shape, is so beautiful. It's quite a short book. I think it's less than 100 pages. And it really, for a short book, it does a really good job establishing character and setting and everything. And I think it's a good time, and I will probably reread it a lot of times in my lifetime. The next book is Felix Ever After by Kacen Callender. Felix Ever After is about, I will be reading the synopsis again so I don't screw this up. Felix Love has never been in love, and yes, he is painfully aware of the irony. He desperately wants to know what it's like and why it seems so easy for everyone but him to find someone. What's worse is that even though he is proud of his identity, Felix also secretly fears that he's one marginalization too many, Black, queer, and transgender, to get his own happily ever after. When an anonymous student begins sending him transphobic messages after publicly posting Felix's dead name alongside images of him before he transitioned, Felix comes up with a plan for revenge. What he didn't count on, his catfish scenario landing him in a quasi-love triangle. But as he navigates his complicated feelings, Felix begins a journey of questioning and self-discovery that helps redefine his most important relationship, how he feels about himself. Felix Ever After is an honest and layered story about identity, falling in love, and recognizing the love you deserve. Yeah, that's a good synopsis because, yes, it's about love and loving yourself and loving other people, and 5 stars, very good. To be honest, this book was difficult to get into at first. The first person present tense turned me off. Luckily, I quickly got over myself and got invested in the story and beautiful Felix. He's such a genuine character, and so are his friends, as flawed as they are. The discussions about identity and love and trust and anger are so valuable. Felix really was my favorite part of this book because he is such a precious character, and I think it could be it's an important story for me enough, and I think it could be such a good story for young queer, young trans kids, because it really pushes that message that you deserve love. You know, no matter how complicated your identity is, you do deserve to be loved. And it's so heartwarming. Be a bit careful. Because transphobia is terrifying. Homophobia is terrifying. He experiences more transphobia because he is an art student, so like all of his friends are gay. But that doesn't mean, like, all of his friends are gay and heavily active in the LGBT community, but that doesn't mean that they're not transphobic. And I really like the way this book tackles, like, that kind of allyship. And I'm so glad that people are talking about it, and more people should talk about it, because yes, more trans stories, please, 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 please. Also, one thing I really appreciated was that Felix is Black, and his best friend Ezra, is also like half Black. I don't know, I just like that. Not every relationship has to be interracial. Like, interracial relationships are fine, and they're cute a lot of the time, but like, it's okay to like date someone of your same race. Like it's okay. Yeah, the last book that I read this month in January is How It All Blew Up by Arvin Ahmadi. I also rated 5 stars, and I actually have it right here. It is the only physical book that I read this month. All the other ones were ebooks. Surprising. So much cute fun. Amir is a wonderful character, charismatic and flawed. So very flawed. My favorite things were probably Amir's sense of humor and the relationships. I rated this book 5 stars, although looking back on it, I can definitely see giving this book a 4-star, and I probably will change my rating at some point in this year. But yeah, How It All Blew Up is about this Persian boy, Amir, and the story starts out in an airport interrogation room. Like, his family was fighting on the airplane, and they all get pulled off because they're Muslim, and, you know, apparently that's a super red flag, and, you know, it's really screwed up the way Middle Eastern people are treated at airports, and we should really address that. The way anyone who isn't from a first world country, like, are treated in airports is really gross, and we need to fix that. So yeah, this book kind of, I like how this book takes a terrible situation and kind of makes it into something fun, because the fact that Amir has to tell his entire life story to these interrogation officers is really screwed up, but I guess the story is really lighthearted. But I can totally understand what Arvin Ahmadi was doing with this story, and I find it really sweet because I think he really just wanted to tell a fun queer story. The story Amir starts to tell the interrogation officers is about how he was blackmailed at school, and one of the kids at school was going to out him to his parents at graduation. So he freaked out and traveled to Italy, hopped on a flight, and went to Italy. He meets all of these openly queer men in Italy, and he realizes that he has a lot to learn about the gay community that he didn't know about while he was in the closet. And I think, I don't know, it's just such a fun time. And one thing I really enjoyed about this book is how Amir really sees the gay community, particularly men, particularly cis, not as diverse as I would have liked it to be, but very white, very cis. But that's all right, you know? I can handle it. The men that he hangs out with kind of don't have anything in common other than them being gay, but they have such strong friendships, which I think is really parallel to real life. Because one thing Amir talks about is how discriminated against for being gay and being discriminated against for being a person of color are different, because he talks about how, you know, he was always okay. He never felt super scared being Iranian, and like whenever people would make racist comments to him, it kind of felt okay because he was going through it with his family, you know. The discrimination they went through, they did it together. Like all the terrorist jokes that they received, like they had that common experience and had each other to understand each other's like experiences. But he talks about how being gay is different because he didn't have anybody to talk to it about. He didn't have anybody to share his like discrimination with. He didn't have anybody to relate with. And then he goes to Italy and he finds a family there. He finds his own, you know, gay family that understands what he's going through. Also, the little book jacket here says that Arvin Ahmadi is from outside Washington, D.C. And the main character, Arvin, talks about Maryland. So where? Outside D.C.? Where? I'm outside D.C. Yeah. So that was really relatable. So yeah, those were all of the books that I read this month, and I talked about them for a while. But yeah, I'm really excited to read more in February because it's Black History Month. So I will be reading James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Black romance. I will be reading a lot of it. Expect that next month if I do a February wrap-up, which I kind of want to, but I'll have to see what books I actually do read. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and we'll see if I post sometime soon.